Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We're on chapter 5. And if you recall, in chapters 3 and 4, um, it was leading up to Alex's birthday. His mom gave him a box of cupcakes to bring to school, and the big bullies on the bus came up, moved by him, had a plan, weren't treating him very kindly, and then he locked eyes with the dog, remember? So that's what we're going to pick up. Chapter 5. Worst birthday ever, 9:45 a.m. Alex stared out the window of room 15. He had spent all of homeroom and most of the first period thinking about that dog, but then his stomach started to growl. And by second period, he had a serious case of cupcakes on the brain. His teacher, Mrs. Hamlin, had given him a funny look when he handed her the cupcake box that morning. He had tried to reassure her that the cupcakes weren't a total loss. He figured he could scoop up the mashed remains like snowballs and mold them back into shape. Totally salvageable. They're a little smashed, but they taste fine. I tested one to be sure. She looked at the box like she was considering throwing it away, but all she did was raise an eyebrow, set it on her desk. Now, Alex's stomach grew so noisy that Doug started growling back at him under his breath, which gave Quan the giggles, which goaded Doug to growl even louder, which cracked up the rest of the class, but also drew a look from Mrs. Hamlin. This was a problem, because Alex was trying to figure out how he could convince her to let them eat the cupcakes now. Just as Alex was about to raise his hand and ask about the cupcakes, a runner came with a note from Mrs. Hamlin, who stepped out of the room to read it. Alex sighed and lowered his hand. His mind drifted back to the stray dog. He couldn't explain it. After all, he'd only seen the dog for a few seconds, but when he thought about the dog, he felt the same way he felt about his dad, the same way he felt when his dad put his hand on his shoulder at the air show, warm and happy and connected. That dog had really gotten under his skin. Alex gazed out the window, half expecting to see the yellow mutt waiting for him outside. Alex? He'd been daydreaming. Mrs. Hamlin stood at the front of the room, the note clutched in her hand. Pack up your bag and let's go. Alex looked around confused. Chairs scraped as the other kids gathered up their book backpacks and shuffled towards the door. The classroom was already half empty. Alex, did you hear me? You're to pick up your sister from room 4B and go straight to your mother at work. Now? Yes, now. We're leaving. Yes, we're finishing early today. But what about the box? What box? My cupcakes. Just leave it. But it's my Alex Douglas. Not another word. We'll do it another day. Now let's go. The one other time Alex could remember getting sent home early was when someone set off a stink bomb last year in the girls' bathroom. The smell was so gross that even the teachers were running outside, staggering around the playground and gasping for air. He heard 6 kids in the class next to the bathroom couldn't even make it to the trash can and puked all over their desks. School was canceled while they aired out the building that day. But it still smelled like rotten eggs for an entire week. The only person who seemed to think it was hilarious was Jordan. Maybe Jordan was behind this too. Alex sniffed the air but couldn't detect anything stink bomby. He looked over at Dougie and Quan. What gives? They shrugged. Mrs. Hamlin hurried them out the door. Her face looked bloodless, as gray as fireplace ash. When he tried to catch her eyes, she looked away. He gave one last glance at the box of mango cupcakes on her desk and then gave up and headed for the door. Next to the door hung the class calendar. He stared at the words written there in big green letters, Alex's birthday. The date was even circled, September 11th, 2001. So just a little bit of insight. We're going to find out why they got out early in Chapter 6, hopefully. Chapter 6, The Man in the White Shirt, 8:44 a.m. Early that morning across the river in lower Manhattan, a man in a white shirt made his way to the underground mall beneath the World Trade Center towers for coffee and a bagel, his usual morning pick-me-up. Standing in line, he smiled to himself as he noticed all the other men dressed like him. White shirt, sleeves rolled up, dark pants, tie. The concourse was buzzing with workers from the floors above who'd come down for a break, while new waves of commuters poured off the trains from the level below. At 8:45, The man in the white shirt bit into his bagel and hit the bottom of the elevator. He checked his reflection in the elevator doors. At 8:46, he felt the building shake. People near him stood anxiously. What was that? You feel that? He walked back to the concourse to see what was going on. The place was buzzing. Storekeepers hovered nervously in doorways. What happened? What happened? And then it hit. A fireball exploded out of the elevator shaft, blowing the doors off the elevator where the man in the white shirt had just been standing. Instantly, there was pandemonium as the concourse filled with inky black smoke. A bank of lights flickered and went out. Sprinklers overhead came on, showering the crowds as they surged for the exit. Stay calm! Fire! Fire! It's a bomb, someone shouted. Then another rumor took hold and raced through the crowd like wildfire until it was repeated so often that it sounded like the truth. But the man in the white shirt couldn't believe it. He cut through the crowd and found a Port Authority police officer, urging people to keep moving for the exit. What happened? He asked. An airplane just hit the building. That just gave me chills reading that. I'm going to keep going. Chapter 7, 6, 10:08 a.m. Mom? Alex startled his mother as he came up behind her at the hospital. She'd been on the plane. She'd been on the phone, her back to the door, and she hadn't seen Alex and Nunu come in. She dropped the phone and ran around the counter to give them a big hug. Behind her, a busy signal buzzed from the abandoned receiver. Alex squirmed as the hug seemed to go on longer than normal. Take your sister over there and wait for me, his mom said quietly. She pointed to the waiting area across from the nurse's station. They canceled school, said Alex. I know. How come? Just wait over there. But how come? Alex, please. Just take your sister over there and wait. I need a minute to think. His mother's voice sounded tight and thin, like a guitar string about to break. Alex put a hand on Nunu's back and guided her to a bench in the waiting area, then pulled out his Game Boy. Nunu stared up at him. Alex? Yup. How come we're not in school? I don't know. What are you playing? A game? Can I see? He sighed but turned in his chair so she could watch. After losing 4 games in a row, he handed it to her to let her play. He couldn't keep his mind on the game anyway. He kept trying to figure out what was going on. First they canceled school and sent everyone home. Then there was a strange bus ride over here. It was the quietest he'd ever heard a city bus. Now his mom was acting all weird. He snuck a glance at her. She was leaning against the counter with her back to him, the desk phone tucked under her chin. With her other hand, she dialed her cell phone number, then fumbled the phone and nearly dropped it. Even from across the room, Alex could see her hand was shaking. His mom turned and caught him staring. She forced a tiny, awkward smile, trying to reassure him, but Alex could tell something was up. He just couldn't tell what. Most of the time, his mom was calm and in charge and knew what to do. He'd seen her mad, usually at him, and he'd seen her impatient, usually with his dad. But he'd never seen her like this, and it freaked him out a little. Alex watched his mother snap the phone shut in frustration without reaching anyone. He wondered who she needed to call so badly. His mom turned to her supervisor, a solid woman with a jaw like bulldogs. They seemed to be having an argument. His mom kept gesturing towards the waiting room. Alex reached over and flipped the mute switch on the Game Boy. With the sound off, he could just watch bits and pieces of the conversation. What am I supposed to do? His mother asked. There was more back and forth that he missed. Then he saw the bulldog shake her head. I need you here. This could be a long night. Might get pretty ugly. His mom glanced his way again. He twisted around and pretended to watch the Game Boy over Nunu's shoulder. A moment later, his mom appeared beside them. Alex, I need you to take your sister home. Stay there till I get off work tonight. Why? She hesitated, then took a deep breath and spoke carefully, as if she'd rehearsed what she was about to say. We've had an emergency, and they need me here all day, So I need you to take Nunu straight home and wait for me there. Can I count on you to do that? Of course he could do that. They rode the bus all the time, no problem. Who were you trying to call, he asked, then made an educated guess. Dad? His line's busy. I'll get him later. She changed the subject. You got your cell phone? He nodded and pointed to his backpack. Baby, I'm sorry. I know it's your birthday. She tried to stroke his head and he pulled away. I'm not a baby. I know. I promise we'll have cake as soon as I get home, okay? Alex stared at his lap as questions filled his head. He wanted to know why she argued with her supervisor and why they canceled school and who she was calling and what the big emergency was and why his birthday was ruined. Alex, something in her tone caught his attention. Go straight home, no TV. Play board games or read. Do you understand? She knelt in front of him. She looked as serious as he'd ever seen her look. When she spoke, her voice was quiet. I need you to be grown up today. Chapter 8. The Man in the White Shirt, 9:01 a.m. The man in the white shirt raced up the concourse stairs searching for a way out of the smoke. When he reached the ground floor, he emerged into a war zone. Burning debris littered the lobby. Smoke hung heavy in the air. He ran to the exit, then stopped at the windows. The outdoor plaza was covered with twisted metal and shattered glass and broken furniture. Part of a desk crashed to the ground 20 yards away, on fire, as more and more flaming debris fell from above. He turned back and headed for the other side of the lobby just as a company of firefighters rushed in, nearly knocking him over. The firefighters charged upstairs, heavy hoses coiled over their shoulders. A nozzle from a hose caught the man in the white shirt on the elbow, and he jumped away, arm throbbing. Move it, move it, move it, shouted a policeman, trying to herd people to safety. The man in the white shirt kept moving. When he reached the door, he could see pieces of wreckage lying around. There wasn't as much debris falling on this side, not as much stuff on fire. He hoped nothing would land on him. He lowered his head and ran. A block away, he slowed down and turned back to look. There was a gaping hole in the side of the north tower, 90 stories up. Red flames billowed out, surrounded by black smoke from the burning jet fuel. The man in the white shirt thought of those people trapped in the upper floors, the firefighters who have to climb 90 flights to reach them. He'd hoped they'd get them in time. How could an accident like this happen? He wondered. The skies were clear and bright. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. Didn't the pilot see where he was going? Someone screamed nearby. He looked over. They were pointing off to the west. A big commercial jet flew past, heading south. It seemed unusually low. It followed the Hudson River out toward the Statue of Liberty, and then it banked. Made a U-turn, headed back towards Manhattan. It was flying straight at the World Trade Center. The man in the white shirt watched in horror as it disappeared behind the buildings. Seconds later, he heard a loud impact as the plane hit the other side of the South Tower, sending an explosion of wreckage and flames straight through the building at the north side. He then knew it was no accident. So if you lived through this 9/11 incident, it really chokes you up when you're reading things like this because you remember how you felt watching this happen, and you know that people are going to lose their lives. It was a really sad day. Chapter 9, Be There, 10:21 a.m. Alex stared out the window of the city bus, hardly noticing the familiar landscape as a series of images rolled through his head. Jordan wishing him a happy birthday with a smirk, the crushed cupcakes he'd left behind, his dad's pants, the light catching on a faded crease, Mrs. Hamlin, her face as gray as ash, his mom kneeling down to him, eye to eye. Nothing made any sense today, and his birthday was officially ruined. He caught a glimpse of himself in the window reflection. He looked like a pouty preschooler. Yuck. He looked away and tried to shake off the sulky mood. Then he noticed the strange silence on the bus. The other passengers all seemed to be staring at the floor. It's almost like his mood had infected the entire bus. He heard a soft mumbling nearby, An old lady in the row behind him had her eyes closed while she counted her rosary, her lips moving silently as her trembling fingers pushed through the beads. A word of her prayer drifted to his ears. "Father," she whispered. Alex shivered. He checked out the window. They weren't even halfway home yet. The light ahead turned red. The bus slowed to a stop. He sat up a little straighter as he realized where they were. Right next to the abandoned gas station where he saw the stray dog that morning. Behind a fence of jagged metal, the lot was covered in broken glass and rusty barrels. It was an ugly, dangerous place, and it made him feel bad to think of the dog all alone out there. Then a new thought struck him. Maybe that's why the dog ran after him that morning. Maybe the dog needed him just as much as he needed that dog. He closed his eyes tightly and made a frantic deal with the universe. "If I close my eyes and count to 10, he whispered, "he'll be here." He counted to 10, forcing himself to go slowly. Then he opened his eyes. There was no sign of the dog anywhere. Alex slumped. For a brief moment, he had believed, really believed. Now he just felt stupid. Outside the bus, a dog barked. Alex jerked up straight and looked out the window. The stray dog sat outside, staring up at the bus like he'd been waiting there all morning, waiting for Alex. Alex locked eyes with that dog. The dog barked again. Alex looked at himself and asked, "Me?" The dog nodded. Alex was 100,000% sure of it. The light turned green. The bus pulled away from the intersection. But half a block down, the bus made a noise like someone had punched it in the gut and knocked its wind out. Phew! The air brakes hissed as it jerked to a stop at the curb. The door sprang open, and Alex popped out like a cork shot out of a bottle. He remembered to grab Nunu by the hand as he checked for traffic, and sprinted back across the street. "Alex, where are we going?" Nunu panicked, trying to keep up. The dog watched them approach, his head cocked to one side. "Alex!" When he got 10 feet away, Alex stopped. It was his first chance to see the dog up close. The mutt had an ice cream wrapper stuck to his back paw, like a shoe. The other paws were covered in mud. There was a dark patch above his muzzle that made him look like he had a black eye. One of his ears stood straight up, while the other was turned inside out and flopped over backwards. And he was missing a bit of fur from his left haunch, where a patch of skin showed through, the same shade as the wad of bubble gum stuck to his tail. The dog shook his head, knocking the second ear back into place. His big pink tongue hung out of one side of his mouth, and his head moved. It swung from side to side, flinging slobber. "He's the most beautiful dog ever," Alex thought. Alex dropped to one knee and put his hand out. "Hey there, boy." The dog took one step forward. Nunu knelt next to Alex, watching carefully. The dog took another cautious step. Then another. Alex held perfectly still. "That's a good boy. Come on." Alex didn't take his eyes off the dog. "Alex," Nunu whispered, "what are you doing?" "Looks like I just found my birthday present," he said quietly. Nunu's eyes went huge. The dog inched closer. He strained his neck forward to sniff at Alex's outstretched hand. Alex didn't move a muscle. The dog stuck his tongue out and tasted Alex's palm. It tickled. Alex held his breath as he slowly reached out to scratch the dog's ears. The dog pounced, knocking him flat on his back. His heavy paws stood on Alex's shoulders pinning him to the pavement. Alex started to panic. Then the dog licked Alex up one side of his face and down the other with a gigantic pink tongue. Good boy, down boy." The dog leaned over and licked a kiss across Nunu's face, too, then stood back, his tail wagging like crazy. Nunu giggled as Alex burst out laughing. He rolled to his feet, and the dog let out a happy bark. Dogs don't talk. Alex knew this, but at the moment he could almost believe that this dog, his dog, was speaking to him. He was wishing Alex a happy birthday. Okay, and I end it there. We're getting to the best part, and it's a really great book so far. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. Toodaloo.